Um, Before I get started, I need to tell you a story about my grandpa real quick. My grandpa is an excellent gambler, Makes a lot of money. He doesn't do anything else, no job. It's his only skill, but he's really good at it. And he actually made so much money one year, he actually got audited by the IRS. And I'm gonna tell you about the audit, okay? He hires an attorney because he had a bunch of extra money. He goes in to see this IRS agent, and this agent was kind of smug with him, and he's like, I need to know what you're doing. He says, I gamble. I make bets, I gamble, I go to the casino, and the IRS agent says, there's no way that's true. I don't believe you. My grandpa says, I can prove it. He goes, how? He goes, I'll bet you $3,000 I can bite my own eye. That's weird. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like an easy $3,000. So the agent says, you're on. I'll take that bet. So my grandpa pulls out his glass eye, bites it, puts it back in his socket. And this IRS agent goes pale because, first of all, he just saw something really disgusting. But second of all, he just lost $3,000 just like that. He works for the IRS. He doesn't make a ton of money. Like, he just lost a month's wage. And so he's upset. My grandpa says, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a chance to win it back, double or nothing. $6,000, says I could bite my other eye. The IRS agent says, well, I'm not stupid. Clearly this guy's not blind, so you're on. Let's do it. So my grandpa pulls out his dentures, bites his other eye, puts them back in. So by now, this IRS agent he's beside himself. How am I gonna go home and tell my wife, honey, I lost 2 months of income? How? Gambling with somebody that I was supposed to be auditing. It's not gonna work out. So my grandpa says, I'll tell you what. And his attorney's kind of sitting there just smiling, just loving every minute of this. My grandpa says, I'll tell you what, I'll make a bet with you right now, double or nothing again. So $12,000 that I can stand right where I'm standing on this side of your desk. And I'll bet you I can pee over your desk into that trash can in the corner and not get a drop anywhere but the trash can. So the IRS agent's a little more cautious this time because he just lost $6,000. He says, well, I need to get that money back. So he thinks about it. He thinks of angles, uses his analytical mind. The distance is quite far. And he's like, so we're not moving the trash can, right? You're gonna stay in that spot, all right? I got nothing to lose at this point, let's do it, $12,000. Shakes on it. And then, yes, my grandpa proceeds to go for it. Right there in the office. He pees all over the guy's desk. Doesn't come anywhere near the trash can. He literally soaks the IRS agent's desk with pee, papers, pens, everything. The IRS agent jumps out of his seat and starts screaming with joy like his team just won the Super Bowl because he just made $12,000. He just got his money back plus $6,000. Now he gets to go home and tell his wife, honey, we're going on vacation. While he's celebrating, he notices the attorney sat back down, kind of looks a little bummed, and he stops the screaming and the hollering and he says, what's wrong with you? The attorney says, on the way in here, this old man bet me $30,000 he could pee on your desk and you'd be happy about it. So what's interesting about that, you guys, it's interesting how your perspective can change reality. You guys notice that? That your perspective of reality kind of is your reality. The beliefs that you have, the way you view things, they affect everything in your world. Let me tell you about my perspective when I got started in this business, you guys. I was 24 years old, and I remember the phone call. My dad calls me. He didn't give me a choice. He said, you're doing this thing with me. It's gonna be great. You're gonna make a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. Puts me on a three-way call with a guy named Marcel. And I get off the phone. It took me this long to decide I'm doing this. I was excited. I knew right then I was in. And I didn't sleep much that night. How many of you have that experience? First night, didn't sleep much, excited all night, finally fell asleep. Woke up the next morning with a different feeling. Didn't feel excited anymore because what had happened was reality set in. My brain started talking to me. And the emotion that was gripping me that next day was fear, not excitement. And all of a sudden, my brain starts telling me all the reasons why this isn't gonna work out. Your brain, by the way, your brain is designed to talk you out of things, not into things. Think about gentlemen in here. Think about your single days. You see a pretty girl. You have that impulse of thought, go talk to her. Does your brain ever go, yeah, do it, it's a really good idea? No. Your mind goes, dude, don't do it. Your breath is bad. You're gonna say something stupid and make a fool of yourself. I'll bet you have a booger. Don't talk to her, stay away, right? So your brain has been cheating you out of opportunities since you started puberty. And it's no different now in adulthood. My brain starts cheating me out of opportunity. All of a sudden, I'm having these thoughts. I'm 24 years old. I have no credibility, none. I'm broke. I'm driving a 1996 Honda Accord. The passenger door doesn't even open. How am I gonna pull up to somebody's house and teach them how to make money? Who in the world is gonna listen to me? I've never done anything like this before. I don't have any skills. I've never had any success of any sort, right? I disqualified myself mentally. I remember I made phone calls to my dad, to the people who were gonna be mentoring me, to tell them, you know what about this? What about all these? I just listed off all these reasons I couldn't have success. Now, there's two things I need you to accept. As we go on this short journey together, I want you to accept two things. Just suspend any skepticism you might have. Number one, most of your beliefs are not yours. Most of your beliefs were given to you by somebody else. And a lot of those beliefs were given to you by society, by the media, by, whatever, by just the loudest voices out there, okay? Number two, the beliefs given to you by society are wrong. They're not good for you. They're not going to help you become successful. Why do I say that? Well, I want you to just take a look real quick with me at society. Let me ask you a question. 98 out of every 100 people, the masses, are they wealthy or are they broke? Are they free or are they tied to a job? Do they have influence over lots of people or do they live lives of mediocrity? Are they excited or are they just doing okay? And so most people think like most people. Most of the opinions floating around out there are opinions of mediocrity. That's what they are. But we listen to them and they program us. And so I want you to write this down, okay? Society screwed me up. Write that down in your notes, okay? You've been programmed. I had been programmed. I'd been programmed to think that I had all these reasons I couldn't succeed. I'd been programmed to think I was precluded from success because of some perception of myself, right? But I had some good fortune. I had a couple of mentors. I had a couple of individuals that I could look to that had already had success, that were ordinary people that had created extraordinary success. They had results. They had a lifestyle. And so what that gave me was two really important things. Number one, it gave me a picture, okay? I couldn't really picture myself being a successful, network marketing professional, but you know what I could do? I could picture myself having a piece of Tyler's lifestyle or a piece of Marcel's lifestyle. I could picture that. So it gave me a picture to put in my head. It wasn't real, but it was there. The second thing it gave me was it gave me action steps. It told me what to do because all I had to do was watch them. That's all I had to do. Do what they do. Because if I do what they do, maybe I can get a piece of their lifestyle. So I took that picture and I took that blueprint of what to do from these guys and I started to act. I started to behave a certain way. I started to copy them and guess what happened? I started to have results. Things start to happen. I start to have some success. Not massive success, but some success. I start to make some money. And all of a sudden, what happened was I move up a little bit and then it stops. I want you to understand something. I remember the month very, very well. It didn't come slowing down or trickling to a halt. It stopped immediately. I remember the month really, really well, you guys. I had hit 5. I was excited. I had some people that were wanting to work. And so we were working. And that month, this particular month, I had never been busier in my entire life. We had lunch meetings, afternoon meetings, sometimes back-to-back evening meetings, home meetings. I had to schedule them at 6:30 and 8 so I could drive across Kansas City to do the next one. I got in front of hundreds of people, okay? 2 weeks in, not a whole lot has happened. 3 weeks in, still nothing. End of the month comes. It's the hardest I've ever worked and 0 results. Not a new distributor, not a new customer. $0 in volume for the entire month. Not a bottle of product moved that entire month. I don't even know how that's possible, but nothing happened. Rank goes backwards, volume goes backwards. Half the people I'm working with quit on the spot because of the lack of results. I'm done. That's it, right? All of a sudden, a new set of fears comes in. It was temporary. You must have got lucky. Once you lose momentum, it's impossible to get it back, right? Your friends were right. These things kind of don't last. All these thoughts, all these lies, right? Back to that emotion of fear. Now, when I was building, guess what I didn't feel? I didn't feel fear, ever. Now, all of a sudden, this lack of results, I start having these thoughts, fear. It just grips me. I remember making phone calls again to these mentors. I called my dad. I called Tyler. I called Marcel. I was struggling. I didn't know what to do. Here's what happened. That next month starts. I get a phone call from one of the few distributors who had stuck with it, and she says, hey, I need you to come do a meeting up at my office. She was a chiropractor. She says, can you drive up here and do a meeting for 2 people? I said, sure. I get in my car. I drive up there. At that time, I didn't really know why I was going. There was no logical reason to go up and do that meeting. Based on the results, based on the evidence, I was making kind of a dumb decision, even wasting the gas. But I went, okay? Now, I found out a few years later why I went. It finally made sense to me. I got to go on a fishing trip a couple years back with a gentleman named Eric Albrechtsen. How many of you know who Eric Albrechtsen is? So I went. It was a fun trip. Went with my dad, my son, Eric, the master fisherman. And he taught me something that changed my life. He told a story. It's a story I've heard dozens of times, but I've never heard it like this before. Okay, and the story's from the Bible. Now I understand some people don't read the Bible. You can still listen to the story. I promise nothing bad's gonna happen, okay? He tells a story about a girl that dies, and her family, they go and they find Jesus and they say, hey, our daughter died. And he says something interesting. He says, she's not dead, she's asleep. And then they go to where she is and they bring her back to life. Neat story. And he asks me, hey, what's the point of the story? And I said, to prove that he could bring people back to life. And he says, wrong. He'd already done that. That you don't have to be redundant about that. People get the point once you do that once, right? It's not the point of the story. Okay, now here's what's interesting. You realize she was dead, right? She was dead. They didn't think she was dead. They knew she was dead. She was gone. She was dead. He said she was sleeping. Fact, she was dead. Scientifically speaking, if you want to get technical, what he said was not correct. Did he misspeak? Here's the point of the story. He's teaching about this little principle called faith. I had never tied faith to business before that moment, you guys. Faith, is it important? Napoleon Hill has something to say about faith in the book Think and Grow Rich. It says, faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches. Faith is the basis of all miracles and all mysteries which can't be analyzed by the rules of science. Faith is the only known antidote for failure. You guys, here's what faith was to me, and I realized at that time. Faith for me in business was two things: the ability to picture something in my head that is not real, something that has no factual reality, factual basis in reality at all, something that only exists right here, and then the ability to act on that picture, to actually go out and behave like it's real when it's not, okay? That's what faith was to me. So I drive up to do this meeting. I walk in. I meet the first guy. There's two guests there. The first guy shakes my hand and says, hey, I'm not interested at all. I'm just here to help out Dr. G and be nice. I'm not interested in any of this. Awesome. I love it. Meet the lady, older lady, really sweet lady, and she says, hey, I'm here to learn about this nutraceutical, this product, because I'm really into nutraceuticals and science. I just want to hear about the product, but I'm not about to do any multi-level marketing. Now, let me tell you something. When somebody says multi-level marketing, they're really serious that they're not going to do it. That's like the derogatory way of saying it. Something about the multi, I don't know what it is. But I'm like, sweet, awesome. Looks like we're picking up where we left off last month. Two people not interested. They don't even know my name yet, but they've already told me. But I did the meeting. I did the meeting the best I could because Napoleon Hill also says in that book, if you can't do great things, then do small things in a great way. And I just found out over the last month, I can't do great things, obviously. I can't even do good things. But I can do one meeting for two completely disinterested people that will yield no results. I could do that in a great way. So let me just do a great meeting real quick. So I do the meeting. Okay, I drive home. I get a phone call from the chiropractor. She says, hey, the lady's signing up. I couldn't believe that. I'm like, okay, a glimmer of hope, something that hasn't happened in 5 weeks. And she says, she wants to know if you'll come to a meeting at her house sometime in the next few days. I said, sure. So I show up to her house. I remember I walked into her house, there was two couples on the couch, and she introduced me to them. She said, Seth, I want you to meet Derek and Amy. I said, hi, Derek and Amy. I shake their hands. And then she goes, and this is my son, my daughter and her husband, okay? This is Mark and Krista Harris. You guys know who that is? By the way, that lady's name's Jackie Shepard. Okay, the lady that wasn't going to do it. Let me tell you something, guys. They are in the business because Dr. Jennifer Gilkison had the faith to keep on going when there was no evidence why she should. Okay? She had the faith to keep on going. And over the next 6 months of my life, I couldn't run fast enough to keep up with the volume. I couldn't do enough meetings to keep up with the activity. I ended up leaving Kansas City. I moved because I'm like, they don't even need me anymore. And the volume multiplied 10 times in my absence, right? Because of a few people, just a few people that showed up that wouldn't have been there had we stopped. I went up and did that meeting just one step beyond the point at which defeat had completely overtaken me, you guys. And guess what? That happens, and that'll happen again and again. I've been in some great places in this business. I've been in some really dark places in this business too. And the only thing that's ever kept me going is faith. You guys, faith is important. I watched that. I watched it in a gentleman in my organization, one of my best friends, one of the most inspiring people I've ever seen in this business, by the name of Clint Boyles. Now, how many of you know Clint? Now, you know the Clint that gets up here on the stage and teaches stuff, but what you don't know is the Clint that for 9 months couldn't get $0 couldn't get anything going for 9 months. Hundreds of people told him no. He got really nasty no's, by the way. He didn't say, oh, no, thanks. I appreciate you calling me. He got hung up on a lot. Like it didn't go well for him. But the one thing that was really peculiar about Clint is that he was always smiling. He had this kind of almost stupid optimism about him that for some reason he thought it was going to work. There was no evidence it was going to work for that guy. None. All logic and reason would say, dude, you need to stop doing this. It doesn't make any sense. Until one day he leaves and goes out west. Because there was nothing in Kansas City. I mean, I saw him get angry. I saw him get frustrated. I never saw him get fearful. Okay? I saw him want to punch people in the face. As a matter of fact, I saw a guy get punched in the face at an opportunity meeting with corporate and it was a guest that Clint finally got there after months of trying to get a guest there. He gets a guest there, and the guy gets in a fight in the meeting and gets punched by a distributor. Not kidding, okay? But he didn't have fear. He kept going. All of a sudden, he moves out west. And I remember one day my wife looks in the back office. She goes, hey, Clint got somebody. Cool. Good for him. I'm excited. And about a week later, she's like, I don't know who this guy is. I can't even say his last name. Kresha Shashevsky or something like that. This guy is, I don't know who this guy is. He's enrolled like a dozen people in his first week. And I look in the computer and I see this name, Anthony L. Kreschwitz, or Tony. Tony doesn't show up if Clint doesn't have faith, you guys. Tony didn't, I'm telling you this, okay? Tony didn't show up in Clint's business because Clint had really good MLM skills. He showed up in Clint's business because Clint had faith, because he had a picture and he acted on that picture even though it wasn't real, okay? So I want you guys to realize something. There are some things that you need to have some faith in, okay? You need to have faith in whatever your vision, your picture is. You can have faith in some things that are laws. How many of you think if I jump off this stage, I'll go up? Anybody? No, you know that if I jump off the stage, I'll go down every time. I'll never go up, because there's this little thing called the law of gravity that always works. There's this other law called the law of the harvest. How many of you know what the law of the harvest is? You reap what you sow, right? You reap what you sow. I want you to write this down. I'm going to add a word into it. Write down the word always. You always reap what you sow, okay? But there's a little principle in that law that we miss. You oftentimes, actually almost every time, you're going to reap in a different season than what you sow. Why is it that farmers get this and we don't? Can you imagine if farmers went out and threw a bunch of seeds in the ground on a Monday and then they went back out on Wednesday and said, there's no crops, this farming crap doesn't work. I quit. But we do that all the time, don't we? I continue to let those fearful thoughts sometimes creep in. I catch myself doing it. But like I said, this business can put us in great places and it can put us in some dark places. But you'll reap what you sow. You guys, if you sow corn, you will not reap wheat, ever. You will reap corn, period. If you sow wheat, you will not reap corn. It will take time. But if you sow, you will reap. You have to, you guys. It's a law. Do you understand that? It's a law. But let me share with you the last place where society has screwed us up. Society has taught you not to have faith. Society has taught you that faith is for the fool. Believing something you can't see, that's for foolish people, right? Who told Steve Jobs that? Probably a lot of people. Do you think he believed him? I'm telling you this, guys. Every great entrepreneur believed stuff that nobody else believed. Everyone who's accomplished anything great believed things that the logical, analytical, cynical, skeptical person would look at them and say, you're a fool if you believe that. Society has messed you up. Here, let me give you an example. How many of you could finish this sentence? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. What a garbage philosophy that is. Think about that for just a second. What that's essentially saying is that anything in your life, anything, if it's a person you meet, a relationship you might have, a business opportunity might be, anything, if it comes your way, you have a predetermined threshold in your brain. You have a limit. You have like a thermostat that says, this is how good anything can ever be. Okay? By the way, who set the limit? Who sets that thermostat? No, not you. The idiot who sold you that terrible advice gave you that limit, and we accept it in our brain. And then anything we approach in life that comes close to crossing that little false threshold, we go, well, it must be false, and we avoid it, and we miss life. What if your philosophy was this? What if it's this? If it sounds too good to be true, you better go look. You wouldn't want to miss it. Do you think that would give you some experiences other people wouldn't have? So society has taught you not to have faith. Society has taught you to base everything in reality and fact and things that you can analyze and look at and touch and feel. And what I'm telling you is if you want to create a great business, you need to have some faith. You need to have a picture in your head that is not real yet, but you need to go out and act every day as if it was. You need to have faith, you guys. Don't let society tell you what to believe and what not to believe. They'll tell you that you're a fool. What I'm telling you is the person that needs evidence for every action they take is the greatest fool of all. Don't let society, I'll say it this way. Don't let broke people talk you out of having wealth, okay? Don't let average people, don't let mediocre people talk you out of being great. The fact that you're here today, what that tells me is that you have faith because you showed up here today. And because you have faith in your vision means you deserve it. You deserve it, you guys. You're good enough for it, all right? So stop disqualifying yourself. How many of you, when you go outside, what does it feel like? 90-something degrees, what does it feel like? It feels hot. How many of you know what it feels like in January in Colorado? It feels cold, right? What is cold? It's opposite of heat? No, it's not. Cold is not the opposite of heat, you guys. Scientifically speaking, there is no such thing as cold. Did you know that? Cold is just the absence of heat. That's it. There's no such thing as darkness. When you turn off a light switch, it doesn't get dark because darkness isn't real. It doesn't actually exist. It's just the absence of light. Scientifically, there's only light. There's only warmth. Cold is just the absence of it. Let me share one last thing with you. There is no such thing as fear. It's merely the absence of your faith. So have your faith. Keep going, you guys. Listen, we still have a few more people to prove wrong, all right? So go prove them wrong. Thank you, guys. I love you.